3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Fourth Line Podcast, part of Full Press Radio. This is May the 3rd, 2021. With you today is myself, Carl, and Stevie Nick.
Happy Monday, Carl. I was going to say happy Star Wars Day, but we missed it by a day.
I was going to say, May the 3rd be with you, Nick.
No, nobody wants May the 3rd with them.
Well,
I want the 4th.
That's all we got for them is May the 3rd today.
So this is technically our Star Wars themed episode.
Yes.
What's your favorite Star Wars movie?
Ooh. I was just talking about this with someone today. I think like the one that I have the fondest memories of is New Hope. Mostly because growing up, that was the only one that I had. Yeah. And so I just watched that one repeatedly. I very much enjoy. I mean, I like the new ones. I like 7, 8, 9. Yeah. Those were good. I like the unnecessary blatant nostalgia of Force Awakens.
Yeah.
I like Kylo Ren's character in general. Like, I think that he's a really good bad guy. I like the conflict, the internal conflict and like growth and ways that he handles that. And I like episode 3. 1 and 2, I watch only when I have to.
I mean, you could cut the Phantom Menace out completely and nothing would change.
Essentially, no.
Like that movie did nothing for the series. I actually agree on The Force Awakens. I thought it was a perfect mix of sequel and reboot. And it was entertaining and fun and nostalgic. The episode 8 I thought was okay. The 9th one I hated. I hated that they brought Palpatine back as a zombie. I just couldn't get my head around that. Best Star Wars movie is Empire Strikes Back. To me, it's not even a question.
I like all of those, but I would go New Hope. That would be my go-to. I also really like, I mean, Rogue One is really good. Solo's good as well.
Those like spin-off movies have been some of the best ones.
Yeah, they were real good. And I mean, I think the best Star Wars content is possibly Mandalorian, though. That is
top notch.
And so, are you going to be? We got Bad Batch coming out tomorrow. Are you going to be watching that?
I'll probably check it out. It's not like on my urgently watch now list. At some point, I'll throw it on and watch it. My interest is piqued.
I wish that, from what I've heard, you very much should watch Clone Wars first, and I haven't watched Clone Wars. So
yeah, Clone Wars I've tried watching a couple times. I get like stuck in the first and second seasons. I know it gets interesting past there. I just have such a hard time getting through the boring.
That's me too. I watched probably 4 or 5 episodes of it twice and stopped.
Yeah. Every time that happens to me.
Well, happy Star Wars Day. And with that, let's get to some hockey because we have like 1 week left in the season.
It's crazy how fast it snuck up on us, eh? I was looking at the Red Wings schedule yesterday because they were one of 2 teams that played yesterday. There's only 1 game on a Sunday when the entire world is not working. And then they stuff like 16 games into the schedule on Monday.
You want to make sure that when everything else that's happening on a Sunday during this time of our lives, you want to let that breathe and give that some space.
It just makes no sense to me. So anyways, I was looking at the schedule for this week, realized they don't play for 5 days, and then they play Columbus twice, and that's the end of the season. And I was like, wow, 2 games left this season for the Red Wings.
That's it.
Wow. That's it. I think for most teams across the league, the season's almost done, except for Vancouver.
I was going to say, most teams are in their 50s, which means they have 6 or less games left. And yeah, we're coming down to it. So we're going to look at this week. Our big thing, we're going to be looking a lot at these division races, getting you ready for what to expect come playoff time. Obviously, next week, we're going to have a pretty clear idea, like fully about what is happening. First, we got a couple of news pieces, though. Big news. The NHL finally announced the second TV partner. So ESPN was announced as the primary TV partner. TNT was announced as the secondary partner.
And it basically announced like as we were wrapping up the show last week.
We hung up and said, hey, like it was so recent. I wrote it down in today's show notes already.
Yeah. It's a big deal. I don't know. What do you think? Are you going to be sad to see NBC go?
It depends which network hires Pierre Maguire, because we know that someone's going to. And I'm not excited for that. I'll be very much tuning in for whoever doesn't hire him.
Maybe a team will finally hire him as their general manager.
Oof. Sorry to that fan base in advance.
There's always that rumor that comes out anytime the position's open. Somebody hears that Pierre Maguire's got an interview, and then it's the only thing that's ever heard about it, which makes me think it's not true.
That's his agent trying to stoke some fires. If we say that enough people are interested, we'll convince other teams that they should hire him.
He just wants to be a GM so bad. And the best he can do is between the benches on NBC.
Well, Pierre, can I see your resume? Well, I've stood feet away from hockey players quite a lot. So
it's a good point, though. Like someone's going to come and scoop him up for next season. Is there anyone else on that broadcast who... Like, I don't even know if I could name some of the regulars on those broadcasts. Like, I know Patrick Sharp drops in, Anson Carter.
Michael Babcock.
Mike Babcock had his, 3-game sample size, and then I feel like he was like, not for me.
I'm good. Yeah, I mean, what is it? It's not Keith Jones. Is it Keith Jones?
Yeah, it might be Keith Jones.
Yeah. So we got, some of them in the broad. Having his name is, I can picture his face, but I cannot actually put the voice on the play-by-play guy. Doc Emmerich. What's he going to be doing?
I thought he was done. I thought he retired.
Yeah, but that's one that we have. Someone going to bring him back?
Well, apparently ESPN's going to bring Jim Houston back.
Seems great.
Yeah.
I like Jim Houston.
I don't know. I would love for them to go off the board here and bring in some fresh, new, maybe young voices.
There's lots of them out there that are able and willing to step up and have some of these spots.
Maybe somebody who looks a little different. Let's throw some diversity in the mix here. I feel like we're looking at the same dude every time we watch a hockey broadcast.
That's because they only hire former NHL players, and
it's true.
Then you're stuck with that, right? But I find that you have such, especially if you watch a local broadcast, when you watch a local, Troy Brouwer was on the Flames broadcast this week as an analyst, or last week. I don't even remember the last time. Whenever I watched a Flames game, Troy Brouwer showed up. I thought this is really what we're doing right now, is listening to Troy Brouwer talk about haircuts. This is the hard-hitting intermission content we're here for.
It's awful. And look, I get the value of bringing in somebody who's played the game and knows the game at that level and having them talk about the player experiences. But with the richness of the data that we get now and the fan interest, there are so many smart people out there who they understand the game, and they can provide so much insight into players, into teams, into systems. That's kind of what I hope some of these broadcasters go out and find and bring some fresh perspective that way.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think bringing some of the amazing professional women's players into the broadcast would be a great place to go.
Absolutely.
And make that happen.
Absolutely.
But and have some fun. What I don't want them to do is just bring in someone as a gimmick. Don't do give me good content, make it entertaining. But don't bring in I don't know why this is who came to my mind, but I was don't bring in Chris Jericho to do your broadcast.
But Carl, that would be amazing.
Well, that's how tired of Chris Jericho would I find 3 minutes and I'm done with him.
I could take one or two shows and then I'd be okay, this is not working. But I'd enjoy the novelty for more than 3 minutes.
Maybe that's Fridays is Jericho night.
There you go. Not even. Just give him one segment in second intermission. Breaking down the walls with Chris Jericho.
Sure. And it's an interview segment. He interviews a player.
No, I was just thinking it's the video of his outline doing that break down the walls just for 2 minutes straight on your TV.
Still would be better than that Alice Cooper song on the Red Wings broadcast.
Yes, it would, Carl. What a random combination. Who went out and was like, you know what we need? Alice Cooper.
Who do you think reached out to who in that situation?
I think Alice Cooper was putting out a bunch of feelers to probably higher ups in the network biz, like the Fox executives and stuff. And to me, this is just like one of those email chains that gets forwarded on to the next person down. FYI, see below. Can we do something about this? Then they forward it on to their employee.
And then it just gets mass emailed. Like, does anyone want to throw this guy a bone? It will never beat my favorite of all time, the Scott Stapp Miami Marlins song.
I'm not familiar with that one, Carl.
Well, let me tell you. We're gonna put a quick little pause here because I'm gonna pull this up. We're gonna play this for the listeners because it's a real treat.
Let's play ball, it's game day. We want strikeouts, base hits, double plays. Take the field, hear the roar on the crowd. Come on, Marlins, make us proud. Come on, Marlins, make us proud. Keep hoping and dreaming and you will soar.
There you go. That is the best, my favorite former music star, and I'll use that word lightly. It's the best one. Hands down.
That was awful. I can't believe you made me aware of that.
Well, you're welcome.
And I'm just remembering who Scott Stapp is. This is the guy from Creed, isn't it?
Yeah. I think as soon as you heard it, you knew that was a Creed jam.
It's like, this one sounds familiar.
This one sounds like all the rest of them.
Speaking of WWE montages.
Ooh.
Creed, baby.
You know, that could take me higher.
Okay. We're way off track here.
Okay. So, TNT, the other big-ish piece, and I'm not sure that is really a surprising piece of news, but it's official. The Kraken paid their final bill. I guess that's what makes it official, right? You pay the last bill and they're like, you're in. Welcome aboard.
Yeah, I was wondering like what the official process was here. And since they've announced that all the cash has been wired over is the language they used, I can't stop thinking about like, what does that exchange, like, what does an exchange of $650 million look like?
I'll probably never know.
Like, was it done in installments? I assume so. I assume you'd want to do it in installments for safety and security. But like, I mean, I think we've all been there on paycheck day, refresh the bank account to see when the number pops up.
Yeah.
Like surely Gary's on his TD app refreshing the balance.
He's just sitting there waiting for his Venmo to come through. Yep, 650 million. There it is.
Just as promised. Okay, you can make a trade now.
It's official. But I think it was the final installment is what they said it was that came through, and which I guess makes sense. But like, are those refundable? Like, let's say the team pull. It's like, no, sorry, sir, non-refundables. That's our money now.
I wonder what the max amount the bank will allow for a wire transfer is. Like, are we talking installments of 1 million? They're like, we can only do 1 million at a time. 650 times, please.
Like, the Seattle Kraken need to build up some amount of credit. Maybe if they were a franchise for a little bit longer, like I'm sure that they can do that later. But if that's the case, then like, what, you're not allowed to hand out a signing bonus of more than $1 million? It's like, yeah. Sorry, the bank. I mean, we'd love to give you more than that, but the bank literally won't let us.
Oh man, I'm sure there's like a process that goes through lawyers, and that's way more sophisticated than what it's like for me to receive my paycheck at work.
I would hope and assume so. But also I like the idea that, like, you know, the Kraken go to buy, I don't know, a sign the next day and they're like, sorry, you're overdraft.
Just like the idea of the owner walking into the bank. God, I'd like to wire $650 million, please.
Can you send this to the NHL? I don't. Just send it to Gary's Kitchen. It's fine.
Just Gary's Kitchen. That's what was on that table. Just wads of cash. But big day for the Kraken. They're officially a franchise.
Absolutely. And we're coming up. They did announce the date for the expansion draft, which I'm excited for. We're going to have that happening coming up here. So good to have them on board. And
do you think the first move they make is going to be a trade or a signing?
I think a trade.
Me too.
No, I think a signing.
You think a signing?
I think they'll sign some like undrafted free agents or like some guys that aren't there. They'll probably, if I was them, I would go and I would sign some undrafted AHL player that's from the Seattle region so that you can make that person your first ever signing. That's what I would be doing.
That's Carl. You work in PR? You should work in PR, man.
That's should.
Good.
You're right.
That's really good. That's really good. I guess they can't make trades with teams right now anyways, because it's past the trade deadline and they have to wait till the season's done.
Yes, correct. But you can, I mean, this time next week, some teams will be done their season, so you can make those trades.
We shall see.
All those bottom feeder teams will be making deals with the Kraken.
Can't wait.
July 21st is the date for the expansion draft. So we've got, that is close to when the season will end. So,
yep.
Well, without any random unexpected delays in the season ending, July 21st is the date for the expansion draft.
I don't think there's going to be any delays through the playoffs, Carl. Did you see that what the punishment could be for a team with if they start skirting the COVID protocols?
I did not.
Forfeiture of the series.
Woo.
The league does not want to reschedule in the playoffs, and I get it.
It messes everything up.
It messes everything up. So it sounds like they're gonna be pretty strict about punishment if the COVID gets out of control.
That'd be interesting. So is that only if I don't know if they said anything about what the total punishment would, like, what you have to do? Is that if you like have a bunch of cases, or just you're not following the rules, they'll kick you out no matter what?
I don't know. This was like a one paragraph thing in the 31 Thoughts column I read last week. So I'm sure there'll be more information or direction about what the rules are actually going to be. But this is what has been leaked thus far, or has been discussed so far.
I like that idea, right? The NHL clearly wants to make this happen. The players don't want a bubble like last time. Yeah. And you can say that, hey, this is on you. If you want to keep going, I would be very shocked if they were to make these players forfeit. That would be, certainly unprecedented, but.
Oh yeah, for sure. I can't imagine that they anticipate it getting too bad. I mean, we've talked about vaccination rates on this podcast before, but it's, in the US, it's pretty high. And I would think most of the players have been vaccinated at this point. So I
was going to say most, I'm using baseball as an example because that's the league that's going right now as well. Most teams are at 85% or higher vaccination in down there. So,
yeah.
And I know many teams did coordinate to get their players vaccinated in the same way that baseball did. So,
yeah. So it really shouldn't be an issue.
No, literally only the North Division is going to be a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. True enough. But apparently they're working on something to try and get the Canadian teams to stay playing in their home arenas.
Which makes sense. For the most part, there hasn't been much spread between teams. So I can see that being plausible. We might have to move the Oilers to a different province, but hey. Whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes. That's right.
All right. So let's take a look at our divisions. We're going to start. Why don't we start with not the Central? Because that one's one that we've talked about a fair amount, looking at some of the standings there. So let's start. We mentioned the North. Let's start up there with teams that are blatantly out of it. Which teams right now would you say have zero chance at the playoffs, or like literally are mathematically eliminated?
Ottawa. For sure. How many games are we looking at? 56?
56. So Calgary is 8 points back with 6 games left.
Yeah, not looking good for Calgary.
No. And now, granted, they do play the Leafs 3 times in those 6 games for Montreal. Calgary.
Yeah.
So Calgary is chasing Montreal. Calgary plays the Jets, the Sens, and then the Canucks 4 times.
I can't see them doing it. I can't see them pulling it off. Montreal definitely has a harder schedule, but they also play the Leafs pretty well historically.
Yeah, they get by for sure.
They get by. I think Montreal's got this one locked up.
Yeah, it feels like it to me as well. I mean, Vancouver is like a ways back, and have a worse point percentage than the Flames do.
Yeah.
So even like best case scenario, one of those teams would have to run away in that 4-game series they played to end the year. One of those 2 teams would have to essentially sweep to be able to get in. And I don't see either of those teams as being able to win 4 games in a row.
No, agreed. Yeah, I don't think it's happening. Now at the top of the standings, again, it seems pretty set in stone.
Toronto up 9 points coming into tonight's games. Edmonton and Winnipeg trying to catch them. I feel like Winnipeg's fallen back too much. They're now 14 points back. I guess literally they're too far back. It is, math doesn't check out on that one. So Winnipeg can't catch them. Edmonton still could.
What'll be interesting is if Montreal and Winnipeg swap spots.
Right. That is
Montreal's only 2 points back.
They are only 2 back for sure.
So that is very much a possibility. I think 1 and 2 are locked up. The question is, are we going to see Toronto versus Montreal 3 times this week and then a best of 7 series between them? Or are we going to see them 3 times this week and then get a break until next season?
That is the question. And those Toronto Winnipeg games, if that's the matchup we get, those have been a great series so far.
Yeah, I know. And talk about like the rivalries that this year's schedule promised. Like that's one that's heated up towards the end of the season.
I would have coming into this year, I would have said nothing about a Toronto Winnipeg rivalry, but it definitely exists now.
Yeah. Right. So that'll actually be a really good playoff series. And I think Montreal Edmonton would be a great playoff series too. So that's kind of what I'm rooting for. But do you see any teams other than Toronto and Edmonton coming out of that first round?
No, I don't. I mean, Montreal, with what they've been doing as of late, like they haven't played great. They've played okay. They've played well enough to hang on, right? And
yes.
Winnipeg has played even worse than that. Like Winnipeg has not played well of late. And so they've watched 6 in a row now. It's not the time to be losing 6 games in a row.
No, you're going to need to bounce back in a pretty big way pretty quickly to make a splash in the playoffs. I just don't see either of these teams surviving a 7-game series with Toronto or Edmonton.
No, I don't think so either. I mean, I think if any team were to, those are the 2 teams. Like this is the top of a division that I trust the least to be able to move on. But this Oilers team's done it. The Toronto has not, but you haven't done it until you have. So I don't fully believe in the playoff performer or not. I think in a 7-game series, sometimes you're going to lose 4 in a row, right? Sometimes you're going to lose 6 in a row like Winnipeg. Winnipeg's won series before. Montreal has been a long time since this core won a playoff series. I'm struggling to remember one.
Well, last year they won their play-in series.
I don't
If you count that.
Which I
The
don't.
league does. The league does.
Okay, so now, Grant, sure, they did beat the Penguins, which was a big upset.
Yeah, no one expected that.
So I'll give them a little bit of credit, but that was what, three games they won to pull that one off?
Best 3 out of 5. Yep.
So again, that's even like more random than a 7-game series.
And then prior to that, was it when they beat Boston in that second round series?
How far
long could it have been that long ago?
Like the ones that I'm remembering, and this is how far back I'm thinking all the way back to like the Halak years in Montreal. But they had to have done something since then.
Yeah, PK Subban. Remember they went to Game 7 against Boston, and PK Subban had that amazing quote where he's like, I can't wait to beat them in their own building. And then they went and did it.
That was good. All right, here we go.
You got it? Okay.
The last time they won a round in the playoffs was 2015. They lost in the second round.
To Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
Oh, the year before is when I'm thinking they beat Boston.
Yeah.
Okay. So I wasn't that far off.
No. So what? Six years ago was the last time Montreal was able to, and most of these players were not on that team at that time, right? Like, I think
this was back when like Pacioretty.
Like this was just Carey Price. Is probably the only holdover from that team.
Yeah, probably.
And he's probably not going to be ready for this series.
Nope. Carey Price, that's a lot of money on your goalie.
Yeah. So I'm with you. All that to say, I'm with you. I think Toronto, Edmonton are what we're going to be looking at for a second round here.
Okay. So that's the North. Do you want to talk about who's going to come out of the North completely, or should we leave that for?
Let's leave that for next week.
Okay.
We'll just set up the playoffs. Give us a little taste.
Great.
All right. Heading over to, let's go east to west.
I go east to west. East, I think, is the next easiest one.
Well, let's make it quick then. Let's make it snappy.
Right? Like the top 3 are set. Pittsburgh, Washington, Islanders have all clinched. The Islanders clinched like yesterday or something, or Saturday.
And Boston needs 1 point tonight.
Boston needs either 1 point or they need Washington to beat New York by any amount.
And that is currently not happening. So,
in any case, I don't think the Rangers are going to catch Boston, whether Boston clinches tonight or not.
I mean, will Boston get 1 point? The Rangers need to win out and the Bruins need to lose out, and that's not happening.
Yes, agreed.
So it's really just the order that we're looking at, and that is a whole different can of worms.
Yeah, I mean, those top 3 really could fall the same, or they could all be complete. Like I see scenarios where the Islanders are first. I see scenarios where Washington's first. It could be anyone, really.
I can see a scenario. I could be convinced that Boston could still finish first in this. Like they're only 5 points back.
It's a little true. Yeah, they're right. You're right. They're right up there in the mix. Yeah.
Any one of those teams could do it. I think it'll come down to schedule. Like who plays the least playoff teams, right? Like Boston's playing the Devils twice. Who gets to play the Sabres a bunch this week is really what we need to look at.
That's a good question.
Islanders and Bruins are playing the Devils a bunch. Penguins and Islanders are playing the Sabres. This is the Islanders division. That's what this tells me. To close out the year, the New York Islanders have 5 games left, 2 against the Sabres, 2 against the Devils, and then finish off against the Bruins. If the Islanders don't win this division, they should just not get into the playoffs. You're eliminated for losing to the Devils and Sabres your last week.
Do you think the Islanders are the best team in this division?
They're one of them. To me, it's like a roll of the dice. I was going to say a coin flip, but it's coin flip doesn't work when there's more than one.
Yeah. Like going into the season, I definitely thought Boston. And every year I'm just like Washington and Pittsburgh, they got to be coming down the other side of the mountain.
And yet,
here we are.
Like
number 1 and 2 right now.
Malkin's back tonight for Pittsburgh.
Malkin's back, yeah.
They've done this without Evgeny Malkin.
It's pretty amazing. So, yeah, I don't know. So what are we looking at matchup-wise right now? Pittsburgh, Boston, Washington, New York.
And that, I mean, I would, if we're looking at towards playoffs, I'm looking at that as an Islanders series, especially Ovechkin was questionable for tonight. He left the game.
Yeah.
So if they're without him moving forward into the playoffs, I don't see them getting far at all.
Totally agree. I think the Islanders would have the edge over Washington. I don't even know. All these teams are so close together. Like you could pick any one of them to win their series. So Pittsburgh over Boston? I don't know. Probably Pittsburgh I would take.
So if you right now, who would you pick to win this division, like regular season champion?
I think I'm with you on the Islanders.
Yeah. I think at 4 points back, they've got a game in hand on Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh's got, I mean, they play Flyers and Sabres. Pittsburgh's got a pretty easy schedule too, but.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. There's something about the Islanders.
They just find a way.
Always. And Varlamov coming into tonight has what, 3 straight shutouts? 4 straight shutouts? Something like that?
Yeah.
It's midway through the second. They have yet to let a goal in tonight. They're leading Buffalo 2-0. Like this team's, they're just good.
The last time Semyon Varlamov gave up more than 1 goal in a game was April 15th. That's 4
over 2 weeks.
4 and a bit games. He has not done that.
That's good. Like that's the kind of goaltending you want. Now you're telling him, yo man, save some of this for the playoffs.
Well, right. So that could be what changes things up in this division is teams picking, because I am fully of the opinion right now, I'd rather be fresh and I'd rather be rested than getting a good matchup, because all of those teams are so good and you have to beat 2 of the 3 to get out of the division anyways. I don't care who it is out of those 2.
Yeah, I kind of agree. In this division specifically, that's where I would lean as well. Yeah.
I think in a situation like the NHL used to have where they would do like a 1-8 seeding, I care more about who I'm playing. But in this scenario where like you have to play all these teams to get out, like literally you play 2 of the 3 other opponents. When they're this close, like in the Central, I very much want to win the Central.
Yes, agreed.
In this one, I'm less concerned.
Yeah, totally agree. Rest up and take whatever you get in the first round. Do we need to talk about the bottom of this division?
Like who's going to win best odds for first overall?
Well, I think it's pretty clear who's going to win best odds for first overall. There's just like, is there anything surprising here? Maybe Philadelphia?
For sure, Philly. Yeah.
The Rangers are kind of where we thought they would be.
Rangers trying to knock on the doorstep, but not quite there yet.
Better, but not quite there yet. But yeah, Philly's had a rough go this year.
But I mean, even if you look at the entire league's standings, Flyers are only 19th overall. They're still mid-pack.
Yeah. I mean, they should have been higher than that, I think.
Yes.
But this year's just been so weird. Like there's teams up in the standings here and there's teams down in the standings here that just don't really make sense to me. The whole like bottom half of the standings are wild.
Yeah, but like most of them are kind of where we expected. I know we talked about this last week, but is it literally like Columbus is really the only one that I look at and say, huh, you're down there, are you?
Yeah. I think Vancouver's probably not fair to call right now because there's so many games back.
I was going to say Vancouver will move up. They'll finish probably at or above the Flames right now. So
yeah.
All right.
Okay, who's next?
Let's head Central.
Okay.
Head to the old Central Division where we've got a very tight race for the top and a very tight race for fourth.
Yeah. This is the division we avoid talking about every week.
This is it. So let's have that conversation now by delaying the one we have every week. Carolina, Tampa, and Florida are separated by 2 points at the top of this division. Carolina with 2 games in hand over Florida, Tampa with 1. Carolina sitting with the most points and the most games left. Is this their division?
I think so. I mean, looking at the numbers, it sure looks so. Sure looks like it. Watching them play, it sure looks like it.
Yeah. And they've got 3 games against Chicago this week, one of which they're currently winning 4-1.
Yeah. I think they're probably going to win this division.
Tampa.
They might even win the President's Trophy.
Definitely possible. I've been so focused on these standings. They are 1 point up on Vegas right now for the Presidents, right?
Yeah. So yeah, would not surprise me to see them win it. Tampa won. I think they won both games on the weekend. They're right there. Florida is right there, currently beating the Stars 4-2.
Tampa lost in a shootout. 1-0 shootout to the Red Wings.
On Saturday?
Yeah.
Okay.
But you talk about that Florida game. That's the one that I'm currently have on right now is that Florida-Dallas game.
Yeah, me too.
And Khudobin got pulled. Akiner's in. And this is worst case scenario for Dallas right now.
I mean, it kind of has been all week though. They lost in overtime to Nashville this week.
Yeah.
You got to win that game. That was the one game you had to win.
If you want to get into the playoffs, that was it.
That was it. And they didn't do it. Now, I think tonight they have Tyler Seguin back.
They do have Tyler Seguin back. But with this loss tonight, unless they manage to come back, which they've not looked particularly great this game. If they do not come back, that is 1 point in the last 4 games for a team trying to catch someone for a playoff spot.
It's not a great place to be. They started off really strong with those 4 games against Detroit. And now that they're playing good teams, you're starting to see maybe this isn't their year.
Yeah, I know the last 2 weeks I sat here and said Dallas was doing it. Well, they lost 4 games since I last said that, and I no longer think Dallas is doing it.
Yeah, it's not looking good for them because on the flip side of that, Nashville is playing Columbus and they're winning 2-0 right now.
Yeah. Nashville does have slightly sorry to interrupt. They do have a slightly harder schedule. They play Carolina twice to end the year, but that's also the end of the year where Carolina very well might have locked up this division by that point and can give some guys a night off.
Yep, absolutely. And then they're going to have to face Nashville regardless.
Right? Yeah, that's a good point.
But you hit the nail on the head earlier when you said this is the division where you're competing for the top of it, because those top 3 teams, I wouldn't want to be in that middle seed.
No.
You want the Nashville or Dallas, or Dallas matchup.
Yeah, and if you're Florida, you hate it, right? You have to face the defending champs opening round after what's been a great season to come in here and do that, where Carolina gets to play the Predators. Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah, this division, I think, is going to be the most fun in the opening rounds of the playoffs.
Yes, I think so as well.
Right? Because even after the first round, You're going to get a matchup that's between Carolina, Tampa, and Florida, most likely.
Yeah. Which
That's going to be good hockey.
I'm here for that.
Yeah, me too.
All right. So we think Carolina is going to win the division. We think they're going to beat the Predators. And then it's the Battle of Florida for who's going to come out on top.
I'm going to go out and say this division is going to finish exactly how it's seated right now.
I think this is the only division that we have right now that I will safely say that the East is for sure going to change. The North might change. What about the West?
The West, the division I know the least about because of how late it is over there.
Well, let me tell you, Nick, the Colorado Avalanche are trying to catch the Vegas Golden Knights. If you want to stay up until 10:30 your time tonight, you can watch the Avalanche game start against the Sharks.
So it's a late one tonight.
It is a 10:30 Eastern time start. You wanted to stay up until after midnight to watch hockey, didn't you?
I would love to, actually. If I'm being serious, yes, I would absolutely love that.
Well,
I physically can't.
I almost fell asleep before this show even started tonight.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's rough. So I have to say, since we're talking about your Avalanche, I thought they were going to win this division this year.
Yep. I've got a reason why they're not.
Before we get into that, I just want to say it's not completely out of the question. They're only 4 points back and they have a game in hand on Vegas.
Yeah.
So it's not out of the question.
It's not.
I don't see it happening though. Do you want to tell me what happened this year?
Two different COVID shutdowns with players both times being out with COVID. So having to get guys back after that. This last bout had Bowen Byram, Philip Grubauer, Mikko Rantanen all out. I believe Jonas Donskoy as well. Previous time had a number of other players involved in that. So twice this year they've had that. Your schedule's changing. You've got guys that are not healthy enough to play being out and then having to get back into game shape very quickly with what's limited practices right now. And any team that's had to experience that this season has had a rough go getting back. And with the Avalanche getting the last players back this last week, I think we saw against the Sharks on the weekend what they can do. And I think that they are going to be ready for the playoffs.
You know, it's a really interesting point. And I think the Avalanche are lucky in the sense that their entire team is good, so that they have a strong supporting cast that could make sure they still finish second in the division. I guess they could also finish third, but still finish at the top of their division with the playoff spot. When you look at some of the other teams that we thought were going to finish higher and aren't, you know, Dallas got hit hard with COVID. Columbus got hit hard with COVID. Boston got hit hard with COVID. Buffalo, like those aren't all guaranteed playoff teams, but certainly teams that we thought would be much better. And I think you can kind of see throughout the league, some of these teams that got hit really hard, how it affected their on ice play.
Absolutely. Right. Almost every team that had that kind of difficulty and didn't come back as strong as they could have or should have. Right.
Yeah.
You do spend all this time in off-season conditioning and all of that, and literally almost start from square one, if not worse than square one.
Yeah. But Colorado, to their credit in how they built this team, is they have a supporting cast in place that can keep the team afloat when they're missing some key guys.
Well, and some of those key guys, right? Like Bowen Byram being one of those guys out this past stretch, is really just a bonus Byram.
Yeah, it's true.
And
we weren't really expecting him, eh?
We weren't expecting him to be what he's been able to bring to this team this quickly. And so being able to have that really just takes, some of that depth away. But man, this Avalanche defense core is as advertised and is so fun to watch and so good.
They are very good. Are you worried about the upcoming expansion draft? Or do you guys have enough guys on ELCs that it's not so much a concern?
So I believe with Bo and Byron, we don't have to protect him. The only issue that we could have, and I'm really hoping that we can find a way to ask or convince Eric Johnson to waive his no move clause so we can leave him unprotected. If there's a way that can happen, if there's a way that the Avalanche can make it so Eric Johnson is not on this team come expansion draft time, then make that happen. He doesn't have as much time left on this deal. So even if they trade him and eat some money, I'm okay with that. Don't try to take too much like off of this team. I don't want you like paying Seattle to take him, but eat a little bit, send him over that way so that you can protect that core group of guys. Other than that, I'm not concerned. He
is kind of the ideal candidate for that type of transaction.
Yeah.
I could see it happening for sure.
And I mean, for them, he's barely played for us this year. So if you just want to put him on IR and just transfer him that money every couple of weeks, we'll be good to go.
He can sit there refreshing his bank account.
Exactly.
Okay, Vegas, we knew Vegas was good. We knew Vegas would be here, although I think Mark Stone's been on another level this year. What about Minnesota and St. Louis? What about Minnesota? Let's talk about Minnesota first.
Yeah, Minnesota. I mean, I think what we didn't fully expect or even expect at all is how good Kaprizov would be for this team and what he's been able to do. I mean, he should be the Calder Trophy winner.
Yeah, I think he will be.
And I think back to the start of the year, and the conversation was, who is this guy? Like,
yeah.
Who is he? Where did he come from? Amazing. Being able to really, and not just like leading this team in points, but like driving play and really leading this team and putting a spark under them. And I mean, for Minnesota, they got to love to see that.
It's funny because as you were talking, I was like thinking back on it, never even heard his name before the season started this year. Had no idea who he was, but he's flashy too. Like he's fun to watch, leading this team in goals and points. Like, you know, there's your wild card right there. That's kind of why you're here, right?
You added your leading goal scorer for free.
Yeah. You didn't have to give any. And you know what? The Wild needed that break. Because how many years have they just been in like perpetual mediocrity?
Yeah.
And stuck there because they can't do anything with contracts like what are those two guys named? Ryan Suter and Zach Parise.
Yeah. So being able to have that kind of, to bring in not even arguably, to bring in the best addition to a team this year, I can't think of a better one. To bring in the best addition to a team this year and it cost you nothing and it's on a rookie salary level deal. Unreal.
Yeah. They definitely struck gold there. Now they're also getting a .920 save percentage out of Cam Talbot.
Is that not realistic to maintain?
I don't know. We'd have to ask our Edmonton listeners.
I think Edmonton and Calgary can't. I mean, Cam Talbot was able to lead Edmonton to the second round of the playoffs. I would say this Wild team is worse than Edmonton, but he could do it again.
Overall, they're getting good goaltending, which is also something that they needed. So good for the Wild. They deserve to be here.
And the Blues should have been better.
It was touch and go for them a little. It still is a little touch and go for them, but I think they're in a safe enough spot in the standings now. Like they're 3 points up on Arizona, and they also have 3 games in hand.
Yeah, I don't think there's any way Arizona's catching them. And so like, I think those 4, right? The 4 that we look at that are in this playoff in the West right now are who we expected to be there at the start of this year, right? It was kind of a flip between Minnesota and Arizona of who would be that last team in. Not super surprising. And the order is not super surprising, right? We knew it would be Colorado and Vegas at the top fighting for it. We thought St. Louis was a solid third. Yeah. And then Minnesota below. So for one of those teams to move, isn't that shocking?
And so for you as an Avs fan, how do you feel about a Colorado-Minnesota opening round of the playoffs? Confident?
No, but I'm never confident when it comes to playoffs. You should know that by now.
I know, that's why I ask you.
Here's the only saving grace that I have for this. The Minnesota Wild starting goaltender last year is currently on our team. And if you want to know, like, hey, here's where he's practiced, all these guys on here have practiced against him. He knows their strengths. He knows their weaknesses. He knows a lot about their system. And I think that brings a ton to this matchup.
It's a good point. That's a good point. I not knowing what their season series has looked like, I would have picked Colorado. Like, obviously going into it blind, I'm just like Colorado in 7 games for sure.
Like, you think it will take 7 games for them to beat the Wild?
I'm saying in a 7-game series, I think that they'll win 4 of them without a problem.
Yeah. And I don't have it fully memorized, but I do believe the Avalanche handily beat the Wild in the season series this year.
Yeah, they did, right?
It is, they've won, I think they're 4-2-1, maybe 5-2-1, something like that. 5-3-1. Either way, they won it.
I'd relax, Carl. It's going to be okay. Unless they go down in the series by 2 games, then you could start to feel nervous.
I mean, I'm going to write them off if they get scored on. If they're down in the first game, I'm going to be like, you're going to have to hold me back from jumping off the ship. But
you're going to be watching like the warm up on TV and McKinnon's going to miss the net. You're like, the series is over.
He's going to have to go to the bench to like tighten his skates. And I'm going to be like, is he hurt? It's over. You can't win without him. Well, that's where we're sitting at right now. We've got, like we said, next Monday is the last like official. That's when the season was supposed to end. So most teams' season is going to be done by next Monday. There are a number of teams, Colorado and the North Division, looking at an extended season into that. And then we get into the playoffs in a mere 2 weeks' time.
It's very close, and there has been no like start date or schedule released yet. Is that correct?
Yeah, we have nothing for that. And I think the NHL is going to try to delay that as much as possible.
Yeah, I would think so too. Now, can we just clarify one thing before we move on here? Once the divisional plays are complete, so the first 2 rounds are done, do they then just reseed the remaining 4 teams?
I believe it's on season points is how the semifinal matchup is. So whichever team had the most points will face the team of the final 4 with the least points.
Okay, so they reseeded at that point.
Yeah.
It's going to be a fun playoffs, I think. I think it still kind of sucks that we're going to have a Stanley Cup winner who's only played like 9 teams all year. But I think it's going to be a lot of fun watching the North duke it out and then emerge into the US market and play some of these tougher teams.
Yeah, right. I think unless you get a Toronto Edmonton matchup in that division, it's going to be that you really didn't have to face that tough of a team to get out of it.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, let's take a spin into the Elimination Station. How about we do that?
Let's do it.
Because we've got just a little bit of time left this week. So we've eliminated most teams. Yes or no? You're going to be the deciding factor on this. Are we leaving Nashville eliminated, or are we taking them out and putting Dallas in?
We got to take them out and put Dallas in.
Uh-oh.
We have to. But Carl, it's okay. This is an anomaly season. The fact that we got everyone else right so far is good. I don't know why I'm defending myself right now. Take them out. Dallas let us down.
Dallas. So there are 2 teams, 2 spots left, 1 in the West, and then this Central Division 1. So you don't want to just do Arizona this week and then talk about the Central next week? No, you said it. We're doing it. Goodbye,
No,
Nashville.
I cut it.
You're out of
We're
the
stopping it
elimination
here.
station. We've
Yeah.
done it for the second time ever. We've pulled a team out. And Dallas, welcome to the elimination station.
I can't go through another week, Carl, of waking up every morning and eagerly checking the standings to see how those two specific teams did.
It's a slow burn for sure. between when you add Dallas and Nashville games to your doom scrolling that we're all doing lately, it really just
it makes it all so much more sad.
It's just too much. That's not what I'm here. That's not what I'm watching hockey for.
No, absolutely not.
All right, let's rip that Band-Aid off and eliminate the Dallas Stars. So the way we do this, we look at what we could do to fix them. And you mentioned something that's going to help them big time for next year. And that's getting Tyler Seguin back.
Yeah. I mean, I think to fix them, they need doctors. They need healers.
You know what? I think that speaks for a lot of us in the world right now.
Yeah, that is very true, Carl. That's a good point. But like, if you look at the team, so Seguin's been out all year. Alex Radulov is done for the season. He's a big part of this team, although another year older now. Ben Bishop has been a big part of this team out the entire season.
Yeah, I'm going to let you in on a bit of a tip. This whole team is actually going to be another year older next year.
No, Carl, haven't you heard? We don't count 2020. That's not we just erased that year from history.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah.
As you were.
Okay. So however old you were last year, you're still that old now.
I'm all right with that.
In the grand scheme of things, long term, you won't even notice. It's fine.
No, I mean, look, once you hit this age, it's just what is it?
I don't even remember the specific anymore, what the specific number is. It just becomes a like early 30s, mid 30s, late 30s thing.
I literally have to do the math every time I'm asked how old I am.
Yeah.
I don't remember anymore. Who cares?
But if you were an NHL player and being paid millions of dollars to be in peak physical form, people care.
They do. Yeah. So Bishop gone for the year. Seguin essentially was gone for the entire year. Radulov's missed significant time. Jamie Benn still can't catch us. So how is this team getting back to the playoffs?
Yeah, he was out for a long time too, right?
He was out for a chunk to start the season. Yeah,
like they've relied heavily on Joe Pavelski,
and he's stepped up to the plate.
He has, but I think they got what they could get out of him this year. Like I didn't expect that from Joe Pavelski at this point in his career.
Yeah.
But they've had a couple nice surprises too, right? Like this Jason Robertson kid has been great for them.
Yeah, Robertson's been a great surprise. And I mean, a lot of their defenders have continued to be good, right? Like Miro Heiskanen, amazing. Yep. You've got a lot of those. He's continued to push that. Esselindell, Klingberg, like those guys on defense. Dallas continues to find these guys and be pleased with what they got.
Yeah, like I don't think that they're a bad team. Like they're not in a position of let's blow it up and see if we can start fresh and scorch earth and long rebuild. Like they're there. They hit some bad luck this year. They ran into some tough times, but I'd be hesitant to change much about them.
I'm with you. And there's not really much they can change right now with the salary structure that they're running. There's really just like some peripheral guys like Andrew Cogliano won't be back with this team next year. And that's fine. Yeah. Right. You get some of these other players back. You can rely on them to be back and to run with them. And I think they're going to be just fine. I think they will be back in the playoffs next year. A healthy Dallas team that doesn't start the year dealing with COVID the way that they were beats Nashville and makes the playoffs.
Agreed. And that's why next season, for the second year in a row, Dallas will be the first Nick Lidstrom of the season.
And we're just going to eliminate Nashville first time next week, right? Like next year, that's who we're opening with?
Yeah, Nashville. Absolutely.
I think everyone's really enjoyed this running narrative of will they, won't they take Nashville out. And I'm glad we finally did.
Oh, I'm glad everyone's been enjoying it because I've been stressing out about it every week.
Nick's definitely been going through some stuff over there. So
against the Elimination Station, I feel my heart start racing.
All right. We've got to pick a team to be your Nick Lidstrom. We've already picked Dallas. We've done 4 teams in the North. We've done 4 teams in the East. We've done 4 teams in the Central. One of those East teams is not in the playoffs, but that's fine. And we've only done 2 teams in the West.
Oh, then we got to go West. We did Vegas and Colorado.
We did.
Okay, then we should do Minnesota.
All right, there it is.
I don't even know who they're playing, or hopefully they have games, but like, let's go watch this exciting Kaprizov.
Yeah.
Oh, they play Vegas. That'll be
They
good.
play Vegas Wednesday. They play the Ducks Friday, Saturday, and then they're off until they play the Blues on Wednesday. So we got 3 wild games this week to wrap up. That'll be I believe that's the end of the Ducks season potentially on that Saturday game. Let me just double check here. That is. So you'll be watching the end of the Ducks season, which might be Ryan Miller's last game in the league.
Oh, yeah, we didn't talk about that. Thoughts?
Great goalie. It's a bad time to bring this up. Maybe we'll write it down for next week. I
didn't think it was going to be a big conversation.
Very quickly then, Hall of Fame for him? Yes? No?
I don't know. He's had a long career. You know what? We have to save it for next week because I got to go back and look at it.
He's had a long career, 1 Vezinas, 1 Olympic medals.
Yeah. Like he was on Hockey Wives that one season. Like he's had a good Hall of Fame worthy career.
I didn't even think about Hockey Wives. I changed it. Let's put him in. We don't even need to talk about it next week. He's in.
You can go on his plaque.
So we're watching the Wild this week. Head on over to our Twitter at Fourth Line Podcast, where you could be like Ziv last week. Ziv won. We're sending him out a amazing hat rack from the store next door, where they are taking refurbished hockey things and making an amazing impact in the community as well. And so we're going to send you one of those. We have like 3 weeks left. We're going to do another one of these as the season wraps up. For every Wild game this week, head on over there and play over under with the Wild. And actually, since we've got, maybe we'll play a little bonus in the final week of the season, since there's going to be, we'll just do it for a bunch of games, because who even knows what the schedule is going to be? Just be all Canucks all the time is what we're really looking at. So we're going to do that. We're going to get a bunch of stuff sent out and looking forward to it. So head on over to our Twitter at Fourth Line Podcast and jump on in, play high-low sticking, and find out all the great things. Pick the over-under. So we'll tell you what the goal total is predicted to be for that day. You tell us if you think it'll be over or under that amount. And if you're right, you get a point. And if you get a bunch of points, we'll send you some stuff. So that's going to be great. You can find more about us at thefourthlinepodcast.com. You can also head on over. You can send us an email if you don't want to be constrained by what you can fit into a DM, or you're not on the Twitters or the socials. Send us an email, mail at thefourthlinepodcast.com. If you want to just tell us what you think the Wild are going to do this week, and we'll hand you some points, do that. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts, we are there for you. We're also on the Full Press Radio app and over at Full Press Sports, Full Press Hockey, Full Press NHL. Amazing stuff over there with great group of folks. And until next week,
time for us to wrap up another Fourth Line show. I know what you're thinking. You don't want us to go. Soon division leaders will be written on the wall. And maybe next year on hockey broadcasts, we'll break down the wall.